hear me? You guys good? Okay. So we're good. We won't use the microphone right now. Thank you all for joining us today. It's February 1st. I can't believe that we have made it through January and we're already into the second month of February. So who knows what the groundhog will see tomorrow for Groundhog's Day. But today, for our profile series, we are excited to welcome Megan Humphrey. She is with the Ashtabula Art Center. You joined the Ashtabula Art Center staff in 1992. And she's here to give us an update about arts and culture in Ashtabula, specifically as it relates to the Ashtabula Art Center. So thank you, Megan, for being here today.
Okay, everyone can hear me? You can see me over the podium? All right, I'm going to start with just this short video. It's a year at the Art Center in like 3.5 minutes. like most people my age, I'm a little technologically challenged. So good morning, everyone. So that 3.5 minutes, we do a little holiday video every year. And I clipped out all of the holiday greetings from that so that you would just see what our activities were for this last year. I'm going to start with what we say we do. The Ashtabula Art Center is a nonprofit multi-arts organization offering year-round programming in theater, music, dance, and visual arts. Our programming includes classes, workshops, private instruction, staged productions, concerts, outreach, public art projects, and gallery exhibits and sales. It's a lot. And I'm going to break down a little bit of what was in that video for you. But I'm going to go back a little bit. We have just come out of a 2-year pandemic. So I want to talk a little bit about what we were doing and how we dealt with that during the pandemic. And the slides that I'm going to show you are just to keep you entertained while I talk. So we're going to, here's one of the projects. We shut down at the same time schools did in March. And one of the things we did is very early on, I had a conversation with my board, and the decision was made to keep all of our full-time staff on the payroll. A lot of arts organizations, I did some Zoom talks with other arts organizations. A lot of them put everybody on unemployment. They would have just the executive director and a part-time assistant. This is a small town. We don't pay a lot. And half of what our employees make would have meant that we would have had 7 people defaulting on their mortgages. So we kept everybody on. We began offering programming immediately. So the dance classes started up pretty much 2 weeks into this whole thing online. And our currently enrolled students attended from their homes almost immediately. We did reopen the Art Center in July with limited class sizes and social distancing and mask wearing, including our dancers wearing masks during class. Here's our spring dance recital with all of our little tinies in their masks. We launched a project called the Fairy Door Project, and there are some flyers about that on the back table. But this was something that we could do where we bought a bunch of little dollhouse doors, and we sent them out to artists and asked them to alter them and make them into fairy doors, and then we installed them in public places. We gave them to nonprofits for free, and businesses that wanted to have one, we charged them $100. Everyone is on our website. There's a map with markers for every single one of the fairy doors, and it's kind of a tourism project, but it was also something that could be completed during the shutdown because it was people just doing this at home. So you'll find numerous fairy doors on Bridge Street, downtown Ashtabula, in the public libraries. The public libraries have some really fun ones. The Harbor Topkey and Ashtabula County District Library have a set of books, and if you look in through the windows, you can see a fairy reading room. So in 2020, we streamed a performance of the second act of Nutcracker. In spring of 2021, we reopened the theater to a third capacity. A third capacity does not meet our financial goals. And we were dark for a year, and then a third capacity for almost a year. So these performances took place during COVID, and you'll see sometimes there's masks and sometimes not. It depended on the size of the cast, essentially, to try to limit people's exposure. We continued our exhibits and art classes in different formats. this was All Together Now, which was a performance that was actually put on throughout the United States in November of 2021 to relaunch theater. And the rights for that were free, and theaters all over put this performance on. And we invited some of our performers from past years to come and do this. That year, Nutcracker was performed on stage to an audience at about a third capacity, and the entire cast was masked. And again with Matilda. So everybody loves a pie chart. Data Arts requires, the Ohio Arts Council requires arts organizations to do a data arts report. And this aggregate data gives them an idea of what's happening with arts organizations. So what I found illuminating about this little pie chart is if you look at the years, fiscal year 2019, 2020, and 21, in fiscal year 2019, we were about half earned revenue. By fiscal year 21, about 25% earned revenue. So that financial impact was made up by all of the government programs that were out there, the PPP loans, the shuttered venue operator grants, CARES Act money that came through the county, through the Ohio Arts Council, and our donors. And the donors, instead of thinking, oh, the Art Center's not really doing much, we're not going to give, they gave more. And our supporters of our programs stayed on. So James Mayer's in the room. Huffman Mayor Paolo sponsored a non-existent season. Key Bank did the same thing. They sponsored virtual programming for us. So our sponsors and donors really stepped up. So what that let us do is that when we could return to full programming, it's a very expensive prospect to do what we do. So for example, a theater season for Straw Hat might cost us $15,000 ahead of the season just to secure the rights for all the shows. So if we didn't have money in the bank to begin this relaunch, we would have had to do a very slow rollout of programming until we could afford to do it. So those PPP loans and our donors really held us over and gave us enough extra that when we did need to get back to work, we were able to do it and do it immediately. We don't know if this is all over, but one surprising thing to me is that I thought that it would take a long time for people to return to theater, to buy tickets, that we would be in a 2 or 3 year rebuilding process. What has happened is that we opened up the theater, and I think everyone is sick to death of Netflix and their own cooking, because our ticket sales have been really good this year. So I'm really grateful to have audiences back in the theater. We're all in the same room again. You can hear I have a little bit of a frog this morning. I've tested twice. It's not COVID, but we're all together and spreading our viruses. So what are we up to now? We renovated the theater last summer, and this begs the question, why are you asking people to donate to the Art Center and et cetera? And everyone in this room understands how these grant processes work. This project was part of the CDC 2020 campaign, and we chose this past summer to implement the process. So the reason that we did this, first of all, our theater was originally built in, I think, 1982. And you can tell from the lovely mauve palette that things hadn't changed much. The seats came out of the Shea Theater and were refurbished in 1982, but it had reached the point where if you sat in our seats, you may be assaulted by a spring. There were certain ones that I knew not to book because they were popular and they were squished pretty badly. So you can see those seats coming out. We also replaced all of the drapes. So for those of you who are not theater, drapes are all of the curtains that hang on stage. And those had timed out of their fire safety. So at the time we purchased them, they actually had a fire coating. We replaced them with drapes that are fire resistant. So they will never, until we actually wear them out, they will remain safe. Some considerations during this renovation process is that we're always looking for ways to raise our accessibility. So when we chose the seats, every single aisle seat in the new theater is considered accessible. All aisle seats have a flip-up arm. That means that a person who is limited in their mobility is able to back up to the seat, sit down, and rotate in. We also have integrated wheelchair seating. So previous to this renovation, if you were in a wheelchair, you had to sit down front and your companion could not sit with you. Our new seats allow us to remove seats in the wheelchair location. Your wheelchair sits in the audience, integrated with the rest of the seating and with their companion. And this is about respect for the people who use the Art Center and accessibility and making sure that people of all abilities feel comfortable and welcome in the Art Center. So there are our new seats. The palette is red, black, and gray now. The mauve is all gone. I personally painted over it in the booth. We're very excited to have that project finished, and I finally have an electrician to put the lighting in on the floor. So that is the last step of it. There will be LED lighting up and down the aisles so that if the theater is dark, you can exit safely. And again, we have run into situations where people who have poor night vision can't see their way out of the theater when they need to leave during a performance. So that's kind of the physical thing that we've been up to. And I want to talk about our programming and where we're headed with that. So on my way in here this morning, I was listening to NPR, and they were talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and how the state of Florida is trying to root that out of their academic environments and not spend money on that topic. Well, I will tell you that the Ohio Arts Council is very interested in seeing arts organizations integrate those ideas into their programming and make it part of every decision that they're making. So I don't think that in the state of Ohio, in arts organizations, we're going to be rooting out this concept. We're leaning in hard to that. So we're trying to figure out what does that look like in our community for this organization. One of the things that we have talked about is that we have to acknowledge the community that we live in and understand that community and address the needs of that community in terms of the arts. A lot of people think that we are too expensive for them, they don't know about us, or they don't feel comfortable coming into the Art Center. So we have to figure out ways to remove those barriers to participation. So we have focused on breaking those barriers down both physically and financially. So what you're looking at here is a community arts project. And we have done a series of murals, every single one of them involving community members in the production of that mural. So people are painting on it. These kinds of public outreach projects, we're not really interested in just putting artwork in public spaces. There is a value to that. But for us as an organization, we want to engage people in the process. So this one was at Erie Intermediate School. The kids at the school talked about what they wanted included in the mural, who they wanted to have featured, what it was supposed to be about. And then they were part of the painting process. They transferred all of the design onto the substrate, and it is now installed in their school. This is in Waterford, Pennsylvania. They contracted with the Art Center to use this technique that we use called Polytab. And the mural is actually produced on 5x5 panels, and it's installed like wallpaper, which means that people in the community can be part of the painting process. And here's the dedication of that mural. This one is at Superior Elementary. Again, a project where the kids in the school were involved. And Geneva on the Lake, we did a crosswalk mural, and we did a crosswalk mural in downtown Ashtabula. The purpose of crosswalk murals is dual. It draws attention to the fact that there is a crosswalk and makes the neighborhood safer, but also people in the neighborhood can participate in this. So if you've been in downtown Ashtabula, you may have seen the crosswalk mural we did there, and we're gonna redo it this year. They don't last forever because people drive over them, but it's a very fast process. We can do 5 or 6 of these in a 4-hour time slot if we get enough help. Another one of our outreach projects, this is the Heartstrings Orchestra, and they are violin students from the Ashtabula Art Center. You'll notice they're not all terribly young. We call them the late starters. And they will perform during the holidays, they perform at nursing homes, etc. They've done concerts for the Art Center. But these are people who were not ever professional musicians who've been together as an orchestra for, I think, over 10 years now. So the level of playing has risen. They're actually a pretty good group. And again, it's something we can take out of the Art Center. Anything that we can do to take art into the community to give people access then reduces those barriers. So we put on events, like we did Magic on Main this year, and we attend public events. We were at Pride, and again, diversity, equity, and inclusion. The Art Center has a strong belief that we need to include everyone, and we need to make it clear that that's our value as an organization. There are a lot of reasons that people don't attend the Art Center just because it's a financial barrier. And we have done what we can with these outreach programs, with working with After School Discovery, and the Kiwanis competition is a free competition for high school and junior high school students where they can enter artwork and they win prizes at the Art Center, and these are on display. So this is student work. Again, that's student work. We invite people to enter artwork in lots of different categories. So in March, we have a women's work exhibition, and anyone can enter a piece in that. We have people visit the Art Center. So this is leadership during the pandemic doing a dance thing outdoors. All right, we'll get to that in a minute. The financial barriers. We provide financial aid to our classes. We think that our classes are very reasonable, but this is Ashtabula. 65% of people in the city of Ashtabula don't meet ALICE guidelines. So essentially, they don't make enough money to take care of their families. So we need to make sure that if you do have the ability to bring your child to the Art Center, we put it within reach for you. We have a program called Pay What You Can ticketing, and this is available for any of our performances. And if you book a ticket online with us, you're going to see general, senior, student, child, Pay What You Can. And Pay What You Can has a blank next to it. You fill that in with whatever amount you are able to pay, and that is the price you will be charged for your ticket. We also don't do a processing upcharge on that. So if you buy a general admission ticket online, there is a $2 upcharge because it costs us to process that. For a Pay What You Can ticket, I felt that it didn't send the right message if somebody says, I can afford to pay $5 for a ticket, and then when they check out, it's $7. So if you put $5 in that box, you'll pay $5. It will accept 0, and people do it. And I was questioned, you know, is this a good idea? People are just going to come to things at the Art Center for free. And what has happened, and what I predicted would happen, is that people who understand the value of what we do and are regular users of the Art Center just buy a ticket at whatever category they fit in. People who don't know us and just think, like, maybe I'd like to try this, will give themselves a free ticket sometimes. I don't care. They wouldn't be there otherwise. And an empty seat has no value to the Art Center, to the community, to anyone. So in the case of things like Nutcracker, where we sell very, very well, Pay What You Can is limited to the first weekend. But I did have a conversation with somebody who called to book a Pay What You Can ticket, and I asked her, how did you hear about it? She was from Middlefield. Her children love the Nutcracker, and she was trying to find a performance that they could afford. And she was practically in tears by the end of this conversation, saying, my kids are going to be so, so thrilled that there's a performance of the Nutcracker that they can see this year. So that's the purpose of it, and I don't think it's really cost us anything. And there's the occasional person who clicks on Pay What You Can and pays more than we ask. And those people, those generous people, kind of make up the difference. But my assumption is if we get you in the door and we get you in a seat and you have a good experience at the Ashtabula Art Center, you're coming back. And that's the goal, is to make you feel like you want to come back. Another way that we are working on that DEI concept is collaboration. So coming up, we are actually collaborating with the NAACP, the Hubbard House Museum, and the organizers of previous Juneteenth events to do a month-long Juneteenth celebration, where some of what is going to happen with that is going to happen at the Art Center, and invite Black artists and represent Black artists in our gallery and in our class offerings. After School Discovery, we've had a long-standing partnership with them, and they make it easy for us because they have all the inroads into the schools, and we show up with programming that we want to put in place. But we're also reaching kids that we wouldn't necessarily have at the Art Center. We are coming up now doing a project with Lakeside High School called Empty Bowls, and it is a fundraiser that will benefit the Feed Our Vets organization, where artists make handmade bowls or decorate bowls, and people who are attending the fundraiser choose one of those bowls. They get a couple of bowls of soup for dinner and a roll, and then they take it back to the kitchen. It gets washed for them, and they take it home. So you get an original piece of artwork and dinner, and it benefits a good cause. So, on to what we do regularly. The Art Center theaters are programmed almost every weekend of the year. And if you don't see something on our calendar for that weekend, it's because we're building for the next show or running a tech rehearsal. But we'll often slot a one-night event into those weekends. So, coming up, Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella. This is the version I remember with Leslie Ann Warren on TV when I was a kid. I got to stay up past my bedtime. Winnie the Pooh Kids, which is a musical. And you're going to notice in our seasons, there is always children's theater. That is by design because we want kids to be involved and we want them to have things to repeatedly come back to. That's how we build those kids into talent, and how we end up with kids who go on to the arts, or at least go on to enjoy the arts as adults. But once we get them hooked into theater, they want multiple chances per year to audition and be part of a show. So children's theater is always included. We have Back to the 80s, which is the senior class of William Ocean High School, featuring music by the B-52s, Bon Jovi, Starship, Katrina and the Waves, Cyndi Lauper, and Debbie Gibson. So for those of us, I may be a child of the 80s, 70s and 80s. It should be fun. Our spring dance concert follows that. Here's our cast of Cinderella. These are double cast leads. We were a little concerned about COVID, so these are Cinderella and Topher, two different casts. The spring dance concert is a little different than Nutcracker. It's not just classical ballet, and it gives our dancers a chance to show off different techniques and to really stretch. I love it. It's my favorite thing we do all year. I am partial to that. It is absolutely worth the price of the ticket. It's hard to convey to people that when you come to a concert at the Art Center, you're going to see strong technique, artistic performances. This isn't little girls in tap shoes. So these are from our spring dance concert. Coming up this summer, that's our season. Willy Wonka Jr., again, Children's Theater. Bye Bye Birdie, Tuck Everlasting, and Once. Straw Hat Theater is always musicals. Here's our, Nutcracker is kind of the thing that ends our year performance-wise, and that is a teaching tool for us because every year you have your littles, and they are looking up to those older dancers. So it's a chance for them to see, like, it's an aspirational thing for the little kids, but it gives our dancers a way to move through those levels. We offer classes, theater, music, dance. There's our Nutcracker end of the year. Here's one of our music students. I want to talk briefly about the Paul and Norma Tikkanen Painting Prize. So there's a rumor around Ashtabula that the Art Center got a big gift and we don't need any money. And I don't know how many people in this room knew Paul Tikkanen, but he was a local artist. He painted or drew every day of his life, including well into his 90s, including when he was in a nursing home at the very end of his life. He was very interested in seeing visual arts, and particularly contemporary visual arts, promoted in Ashtabula. So he left his entire estate to a trust to establish the Paul and Norma Tikkanen Painting Prize. And he left a set of instructions. And those instructions made it very clear what the Art Center was expected to do to carry out these wishes. This trust supports the costs of that event and that event only. So, yes, he did leave us some money, but there were a few strings attached. This gave us an enormous opportunity, and every table has the catalog from this year's show on it, so feel free to page through those. If anybody wants to take one home, feel free, and I have some extras with me. He wanted every year for us to invite painters to enter this competition from Northeast Ohio and Northwest Pennsylvania. So we have established counties in which the painters must reside, and we are to give 2 first prizes and 2 second prizes every year. And we were instructed to make these significant monetary prizes. These should be life-affecting monetary prizes. So this year, the top 2 prizes were $12,000 each. There is no other painting competition that gives this kind of money. The second prizes were $5,000 each, and there were 6 honorable mentions of $1,000. So there's one of Paul's paintings. It's not reproduced well here in this light. This is Euryce Archer, one of the top prize winners. She just graduated from the Cleveland Institute of Art. She is actually a foreign exchange student from Africa. And for her, $12,000, having just been a recent college graduate, is a significant amount of money. That's first and last month's rent or a car. So we were thrilled. And this is one of the other first prize winners. She's kind of at the end of her career. It was lovely for me to see her rewarded for her technique and a recognition of the quality of her work. And I don't expect everybody in this room to understand why the jurors would have chosen any of these things. But this recognition also afforded her the chance to go on a trip of a lifetime. She kind of had a bucket list trip, and that's what she did with her $12,000. So it's pretty exciting for us. You're going to see promotion about this start again. The deadline is end of July this year for entries. And if you know painters, have them enter. This is one of our second prize winners, and she's an Ashtabula native. And young, and for her, I'm sure $5,000 made a big difference, and that is another of the second prize winners. He didn't want to have his picture taken, so you get his artwork. Okay. So some numbers for you guys. And I'm going to give you some numbers from our annual report in 2018. We had 108 individual performances and recitals in music, theater, and dance, over 4,500 individual music lessons, 91 visual arts classes, 11 exhibitions, 13,000 visits were made to our website, 11,256 individual tickets were sold, almost 21,000 individuals participated directly in our activities, and we employed 36 teachers as contract employees. So people think that, I'm going to talk a little bit about economic impact. We have 7 full-time staff members, and those 7 full-time staff members organize and manage everything that you've seen this morning. But we also have 7 full-time staff members who live in this community and spend their money here. And people underestimate the economic impact of the arts in a community. And it stretches into, when you look at what we've done with downtown murals, things like that, there's an economic impact to the production of artwork, but we also are an employer in this community. And those 7 full-time staff members, we have 7 part-time staff members, and right now I think 42 contract teachers. And a lot of our contract teachers make a living as music instructors. They're contract teachers for us and a couple other organizations. So there is a huge economic impact of the arts in general and what we do in the community. Our mission statement says the Arts Center promotes artistic creativity, education, and presentation for a collaborative, inclusive, and vibrant cultural community. The Arts Center inspires and enriches participants, audiences, and visitors alike. So Kelly mentioned that I have been at the Arts Center for 30 years. So I came back to Ashtabula in 1992 to take a job at the Ashtabula Arts Center, fully intending to give it 5 years and then move on to something bigger and better. And in that first 5 years, I started to really understand and live the value of what we do. And I've never left because I think that what we do is very important in this community. And similar organizations are essential to teaching the arts. We are about 50% an educational institution. And if we don't exist in small communities, and that means Rabbit Run and the Conneaut Community Center for the Arts and the Willoughby Fine Arts Center, if those organizations don't exist, you end up with a desert in terms of access to the arts. So these small organizations are active in the community, and they provide access for our residents. And what I see when our students come back, and we get lots of students who come back. They come back and to tell us, you gave us me a place where I felt like I was at home. You gave me, I didn't know that this was a possibility. So Zach Adkins, who has been the lead in a Broadway production, didn't know that that was a career option until he started performing at the Ashtabula Arts Center. So there is value in what we do. That's the reason I stayed. And you can tell from my enthusiasm about this. I think what we do is important. So that's kind of the update on where we are now. I'm thrilled to have our audiences back. I'm thrilled to have our artists working. You have no idea what it does to an artist to be shut off from that artist community and producing their artwork. And you would think if you gave, visual artists a lot of time that they would be more productive. But they're just as susceptible to those kinds of depression and just sitting there watching Netflix during the pandemic as everybody else was. So we are delighted to be back and running at full capacity with the support of Ashtabula. Thank you very much. If anybody has questions, I'm happy to answer them. Yes?
Again, with regard to fundraising, who came up with the wonderfully devious idea of putting an asterisk next to your name in the newsletter if you had increased your donation from the last year? Because you open that up and you see friends that you know and they have the little asterisk, so you're locked in. And I compare it to winning the 50-50 at the high school play, and then of course you have to donate it back to the players there. But
Well, that was very observant of you, and I actually don't know who came up with that, but for all of you other nonprofit leaders in the room, that's a freebie. You can have that idea. I'm happy to share the asterisk. Anybody else? Greg.
Do you track any of the demographics of your visitors?
We try.
Where they're from, age segments, that sort of thing?
So we can do that through ticketing, and we do track that. We do an informal head count thing at, so for example, if we have a free concert outside, you're gonna see somebody with a popcorn bag and a pencil counting, because we actually, as our part of our data arts obligations, need to give some demographic information. So I actually got a popcorn bag with, we're tracking like how old we think the audience is, how many people of color we think are in the audience, and it's a quick head count, but it also gave me those numbers and one dog. But the data arts program does not ask for dog information, so. But yes, we do try. It's a little, it can be tricky. It's time consuming to try to keep that data. And if you're doing this in an informal process and you're standing there, you're just going around going like, who has gray hair? Okay, those people are all seniors. And so, I might get miscounted because I'm not quite a senior yet. But I have all the gray hair. That's due to my job and my children. Anybody else? No?
Question, but could I make a quick comment though to say thank you for being here, thank you for what you do, and it ties in the economic impact part of that is one piece, but the community impact and the community building component of having an arts center and arts programs plays right into what we do in economic development. Our ability to be able to attract workers, retain workers is really, in each day that goes by, it's more and more important to be able to connect them to community resources like an arts center, so that we can compete for investments in industry and things like that by helping to attract and retain workers. So this all plays a part of what we're doing collectively, so thank you.
Thank you. That's one of the things that I use when I talk to corporations is I make the point, you should support the Ashtabula Art Center because it benefits your employees. The existence of the Art Center enriches our community. And for myself, I would not have come back to Ashtabula if we did not have a YMCA and the Ashtabula Art Center, because that's where my kids spent their entire growing up, is in the pool at the Y and in the Art Center. Like it or not, in the case of the Art Center. But it would not have attracted me back to this community if we didn't have. And I'm not sure that I would have leaned so hard into the arts if I didn't grow up going to the Ashtabula Art Center. So I really did live that whole story. And I still get out a paintbrush. I was working on the Cinderella set this week. And every time, you know, the pile of grant writing and paperwork gets too deep, I will take a break and go do something that's actual artwork. Get to breathe for a minute. So thank you all so much. And I appreciate you getting out of bed early to come here and have breakfast and listen to me gush about the Ashtabula Art Center.
Thank you for sharing information about the Art Center. I'm sure, you know, I can't encourage everyone here in this room. I see a lot of, you know, faces we recognize that we know have gone to the Art Center and support the Art Center, but I can speak from firsthand experience, the community it can give you. You know, I did plays there in high school. My children enjoy their art camps. They have samplings for everyone. So if you haven't had a chance, I encourage you guys to please check it out, from the classes they offer to the shows they're putting on and performing, because it is truly a first-class act here in our community. And so we're really thankful that we have the opportunity to have such a wonderful organization that we can be a part of in Ashtabula. So thank you. For housekeeping items, our March profiles will be happening on March the 1st. So we look forward to seeing everyone here once again on Wednesday, March 1st. Please share this with your friends. You know, let's try to finish the year out strong. We're excited to be back here in person once again this year. So please share with your friends, and also let them know we did implement a new option that if you're not interested in breakfast, you can also choose a coffee-only option when you go to checkout to register. So you can definitely share that as well. But thank you all for starting your day off here, and have a great rest of your Wednesday.